Welcome to Redeeming Missions, a podcast from every home for Christ about the complexity of Christian missions and evangelism in our time. We host conversations that will challenge us through unique global perspectives and honest stories. Redeeming Missions is a podcast for ministry leaders, passionate evangelists, and the rest of us who might be a little bit more cautious or even disenchanted with the topic. Together, we're on a journey to find the heart of what it means to carry Christ to our world. I'm your host, Tanner Peake, and I'm so glad you're joining me today. I'm standing here overlooking a beautiful cityscape of Kathmandu, Nepal. 20 years ago, when I was just a young man, I made a journey here, a pilgrimage to this place to really just to see something that was beyond me. A good friend and I and some other relatives of mine traveled across Asia, and we found ourselves in this place in Nepal and spent a couple of weeks here exploring just this beautiful culture and this beautiful people. It's now been 20 years since this time, and so much of my life has changed since that initial pilgrimage to this place. I'm a dad. I've obviously gotten married. My life has changed in so many ways. I'm now leading this global ministry, Christian ministry that's active in 155 nations around the world. But as I stand here and as I've come back to this place, I've come back really still asking a lot of the same questions I was asking when I was a young man. Specifically, what does it mean to see Christ expressed in a place, in a culture like this? And what does it mean for God, for Christ to encounter people like this? And how is it different than my experience that I've grown up with and my traditions for the last years of my life? And so for the last couple days, I've actually been here with leaders all across the Himalayan region. And I've got to sit down and drink good tea with them, and I've got to share meals with them and look in their eyes and ask them questions. Ask them questions about their faith and their spiritual journey and what it's meant for them to know Christ and how that's changed their life. And I can't even share most of the stories that I've heard because in this part of the world, it's against the law to be a Christian. And so some of the stories are high security. I can't share those, certainly on a public platform like this. But I did have the opportunity to sit with one particular brother, and we were able to capture some footage and an interview with him. And what you're going to see here in just a second is just a short part of a conversation that I had with a leader in this part of the world, where he shares what it meant for him, a real man in a real time and real space from this culture, this Himalayan culture, what it meant for him to encounter Christ. And you're not going to see his face, and we're not going to use his name, and so there'll be no way to get him in trouble for posting this. But I think what you're going to hear are some really unique experiences. Some of these experiences you might really, really relate to, and other things that he's going to say, you're going to say, I have no clue. I've never heard anything like that. I've never thought about that at one point in my entire life. And so there's one thing that I know is that everyone's spiritual journey to Christ is completely different. And while there's similarities, there's always nuance and there's always dignity given to the local culture. So I want to invite you to open your ears and open your heart. And I hope this really impacts you. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about your family and just to understand a little bit about where you're coming from and paint a picture for somebody who's never met you or been in this culture. One of the reasons I wanted to paint that picture is so we could understand a little bit more of what was it like when Christ was carried to you in that context. Or maybe a specific question would be, how was Christ carried to you for the first time?
It was not easy for me because I was the first believer in my family, and everybody, they were Buddhist, and
Wow.
And I also do not want to accept Jesus Christ because I was thinking that it is religion for the Western people only.
Wow. How was it carried to you? How were you exposed for the first time to Christianity?
One of my uncle, he was a Christian, and many times he shared me about Jesus Christ, but I was not ready to accept the things he was sharing with me. So I told him in the final, please do not share these things again and again to me. I don't like.
How old were you?
At that time I was in 16.
Wow. 16 years old.
16 years old. Yeah.
And your
I was in the
keeps,
high school. Yeah.
And your uncle keeps telling you
yeah.
about Christ, but you said, I don't hear about it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I was telling like that. And once I was coming back from the school, because I used to go to school, it takes 3.5 hours for going only, and again coming back 3.5 hours.
Wow, just walking, to go to school.
Walking.
Wow.
Daily I had to walk in the 7 hours. Whew. So I was coming back from the school, so I met uncle, the same uncle on the way. Yeah. And he did not talk me about Jesus, but we were just going, and we met a lady. She was one of believers of the same church. So uncle introduced me as she is my friend. Okay. And then she started to tell me about Jesus Christ.
Wow.
I was burning inside. But because of my uncle's friend, I did not tell her anything. And finally she asked me questions. Would you like to receive Jesus Christ? No, because I have to ask my parents. If I accept now, then they will tell me something bad. So I don't want to accept today. And then again she asked me another question. Since you are going from here to your place, it will take more than 1 hour now. So if something happened on the road, what will happen to your spirit? It was a very big question for me. And I told him that I do not know where it will go. I don't have any idea where my spirit will go after my death. So she told me, if you do not accept Jesus Christ, then your spirit will go directly to the hell.
Wow.
And I was thinking that hell is a very dangerous place. I don't want to go there. And I told her that I don't want to go to the hell. Then accept Jesus Christ today.
Wow.
And I was nailed down. It is on the road only. And
you kneeled down on the road?
Yeah.
Right there?
Yeah, right there. And it was 11th June 1988.
Wow.
I still remember the date, because she told me that write it this date and time, even year, so that it will help you to tell your testimony in future.
But your family was Buddhist.
Yeah, they were all Buddhist.
And was it that Buddhism wasn't answering that question about what happened to your soul after you died?
Yeah, because whenever we worship nature, I mean God and Goddess, at that time I asked my grandfather, why we are doing this? Because after death, our spirit, if we do not do all these things, then our spirit will go to the hell.
Huh.
So we don't want to go over there.
Yeah.
So we have to do this. So that's what I had a little idea about that.
Yeah.
So, and when I reached home, then I told my story.
To who? Who did you tell?
My family.
Yeah.
And they were laughing at me. You are joking, right? No, it is true. I accept Jesus today. Yes, you are joking. You are joking. And when I started to go to the church in another place, I used to walk at least around 3 hours in order to be
walk to church.
Yeah, church. Yes.
Wow.
And at that time, this guy is telling truth, and we need to stop him. And
wait, so your family, were they angry at you?
Yeah,
what were they feeling towards you?
They were very angry. They were unhappy. They don't want me to go to the Christian church.
But why?
Because if they go to the Christian church, I will die. Because once one of our family members, they accept Jesus Christ, but unfortunately he died by vomiting this blood.
Wow.
And everybody was telling me that you will die by vomiting blood. So they were telling me that this guy will die soon, and I was a big challenge. And
Yeah.
whenever I used to come back to home after service and fellowships, and they do not open the door for me, and I had to be in the outside home for many times. Even sometimes they do not allow me to come to the kitchen. They eat food, and they were very.
This is your own family, though.
Yeah, my own
your
family.
Your own family was rejecting you.
Yeah.
Your mother, your father.
Yeah. And but I was praying to God. Yeah, if you are true God, please bring my family also. I want to worship you as a family, not alone. I want to worship you with my family.
Yeah.
So after 3.5 years, I was that time in college. And when I came back to my village, and the pastor told me that you have to speak today in the cottage meeting. So I prepared a very short message, and when I was got up to say something from the Bible, I saw my mother and younger brother. Well, they were there.
Wow.
And I was surprised. Why you guys are here? No, we have decided to follow your God.
What drew them to?
Because I did not from the very moment of my conversion, I left drinking this alcohol.
Wow.
And eating nonsense things, and also they like it. Wow. And even I do not fight to the people angry. I was so humble. I became humble guy, and they like it.
So they saw your life.
Yeah, they saw my life,
and they saw it changing.
Yeah.
And even though they were still rejecting you,
yeah.
they were still watching.
We used to worship God by sacrificing so many hens. I mean, chickens, and eggs. It requires a lot of money, and they were thinking that later on I came to know, if we become Christian, then we don't want to. You don't need to do all these things.
We get all of our chickens back.
Yeah.
Wait, for somebody who might not know this culture, that's a crazy statement. That in this culture, some people choose to worship God by sacrificing chickens. Mm-hmm. Explain that just a little bit more for like the average person who might say, what are you talking about? Okay. Why did you need to sacrifice chickens?
Yeah, because I asked also my grandfather why we are doing this. When we sacrifice some animals to our gods and goddesses, then they will be happy.
Yeah.
And they will give us good health, and even wealth also. And we do not, feel any sicknesses, something like that. Yeah. And finally we will go to the heaven. Yeah, that was the reason of sacrificing these animals.
Wow, to the gods. Yeah, and they would be appeased by by the blood. So your mom and your brother, one of their reasons in their mind, they had seen your character, but they were also thinking, think of all the chickens or the other animals we might get back to be able to eat or sell or whatever else you would do with that. So then what happens? Tell me more of the story.
And they also think that if we do like this, then our money will go like river. A lot of money we have to put for doing all those things. So if we become a Christian, at least we can save money.
Wow.
And for our good purpose, we can use for those money. So
were they worried about being rejected though? Like when you became Christian, you were rejected. Certainly your mother and your brother had to realize if they became Christian, they would also be rejected. Were they concerned?
Yeah, they had that kind of feeling. But, when I was there, then they have a little, courage. Yeah. So, my elder son is there, and the younger brother, he was thinking that my elder brother, he became Christian. Why not?
So he looked up to his brother.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the story. And by the time my grandfather passed away, he was not there, and my grandmother was still there. She was stronger than my grandfather, And when we, three of us, we used to pray together. At that time, she used to come and she used to say nonsense things against us. But our prayer was, Lord, please save this lady also. We want this lady.
Your own grandmother?
Yeah, my own grandmother, yes.
In this culture, is it common for the woman to be stronger in the family or the man to be stronger, or both?
yeah, if husband is there, he is stronger than wife.
Yeah.
But if husband is not there,
Then wife is stronger.
Yeah, wife is stronger.
So she had a lot of influence still, even within the family.
Yeah, and we were praying to, three of us are praying to our grandmother, and after 10 years, my grandfather, she got serious illness, and at that time she told me that I also would like to accept your gods.
Wow.
And it was a miracle, when we prayed together to her, then she healed completely.
Wow.
And she took water baptism, and then after 20 days she passed away.
Wow. So she became a Christian.
She became a Christian.
Was baptized,
Yeah.
died 20 days
Yeah.
later. And it was a result of she actually was in bad health.
Yeah.
And wanted to be, that was what drew her into
Yeah.
the Christian faith.
Yeah.
What parts, as you talk about your family, first they weren't Christian at all, they were Buddhist or they worshiped nature, and then they became Christians. What would you say are the parts of your culture that changed? When you became a Christian, were there things in your culture that you left behind, and maybe some other things that were just the same as they always were?
Now we were in the minority because there is a huge family. They worship different gods and traditional gods and God and goddesses. So we think that we are in the minority, but we have a real God with us.
Yeah.
So one day our God will bring all these people also. So we three of us was praying to our extended family. And now it's been 35 years ago. Now 90% of them have become Christians.
One of the things that you said a second ago that really sticks out to me, that I want to dig in on a little bit more, is you said that one of the reasons that you were resistant to Christianity was because in your mind you thought it was a Western religion. You thought it was from the outside. And I think there's a lot of people that when they think about Christian missions today, or about Christianity and what Christians do when they evangelize, I think they think about it and they think the same thing. They think it's colonial. They think it's some kind of Western agenda on places like this, or a Western places around the world, or a Western agenda on other places around the world. What would you say to that? What would you say that your experience is that Christianity is a Western religion, or is it not, or is it something completely different?
Yeah, many people think like that whenever we talked about the Christianity, because this is a Western religion, and this is we should not leave our God and goddesses and accept Christianity.
This is the birthplace
Yeah.
of entire religions.
Yeah.
A lot. This is a sacred place.
Yeah.
For multiple, religions. I think around the world, and so I think I understand when people say, "This is the God being imported from the outside."
Yeah.
I think I can understand why they're saying that.
Yeah.
But what would you respond to that?
In that situation, I have to share my testimony.
Yeah.
How I became a Christian, and how I was, my thinking was similar to that person. So I have to, share that things. So that Christianity is not only for the Westerners. This is for all the people of the earth.
Yeah.
So even it is written in the Bible. So I can quote some of the verses from the Bible.
Yeah.
So Jesus Christ is not a specific country and a specific people. This is for all people.
Yeah.
So that is why Christianity is all around the world.
Yeah.
So
that's
I can share like that.
What would you say? It was 16-year-old
Uh-huh.
walking on the road.
Okay.
He's having the concern in his mind, is this a Western religion? What was it ultimately that changed your mind at the moment on that road? You said your heart was burning.
Yeah.
What was it? What was it inside you that said, no, this is something real, something authentic for me?
The last question she asked me, that where your spirit will go. That I never ever heard that kind of questions, and that was a very, a stunning question for me. I stop sometimes and think myself that yes, we have a spirit, but where it will go after death?
Yeah.
Even my father, my grandfather, even though he told me, but I was not satisfied the answer he gave me. So, and she was quoting so many Bible verses. So that really, impressed me, and finally I decided to accept Jesus.
And it's such a beautiful, honest story, but it required a lot of sacrifice on your part.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to step away from, we started by talking about how family is safe.
Yeah.
Family is where you laugh, family is where you can speak openly to one another. But the truth is, when you had that encounter and knelt down on a road, you were walking away from a lot of the things that you idealize now in terms of a family. And so it takes a lot of courage and conviction to do that, which I think only comes, in a sovereign way. I think that has to come from somewhere else, from God, from beyond. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, because whenever we accept Jesus, then our lifestyle entirely, it changes.
Right.
So this is a big decision.
In a place like this, I said this a second ago, this is a land full of temples.
Yeah.
You can look out this window, all across this land. There's temples erected to various gods. There's mixtures of religions. There's various versions of Buddhism and Hinduism. They all kind of clash in this land. And so this land is full of religious imagery. You can see it everywhere you go. What does it mean to bring Jesus into a context like that? To carry Jesus into a context where there is a lot of other religion? What is different about Jesus than these other gods or these other temples? What makes it unique among those?
When I was a Buddhist, at that time I used to think about our religion. We have 33.3 million God and goddesses.
Whoa, say that again. Buddhism has 33 million goddesses.
Not including Buddhism. 30.3 million God and goddesses we have.
In this nation?
In this nation.
30 million plus.
Yeah, 30 million plus.
gods.
Yeah, millions of gods, yes. God and goddesses.
Wow, gods everywhere.
In that sense, in that background, we do not need other gods.
Right.
But these gods is not helping us to live a good life. Our forefathers, our people, they are not in the good condition. They have a lot of problems, and they have a lot of problems. They have a lot of things inside their minds. They do not have peace in their mind. When we talk each other, we did not talk about the love. So
you would say that 30 million gods, I'm just going to put words in your mouth, but Jesus brings real transformation, and that's maybe what makes Christ unique compared to these other gods. What you've said, even in your own story, it changes.
Yeah.
Something changes. Christ, there's change. There's life, new life that emerges inside someone, and that same life isn't seen in the 30 million other gods that exist in this land.
Yeah. And it really impacts to the people, those who are around us.
Yeah.
Whenever I visit to my cousin after becoming a Christian, usually I did not eat. When I was taught that I should not eat the meat which was offered to the god and goddesses. And when I reached to my cousin, my auntie and uncle, and at that time, did you see that chicken? That chicken is not offered to God. That is especially for you. These are all offered to God. That is special for you. So this evening I am going to cook that chicken for you. So you have to eat that. That is very, pure, not sacrificed one.
Wow.
So it really impacts to our extended family also. So what kind of things I eat and I should eat and I should not eat. So they are very aware of it. And I did not die by vomiting blood.
Yeah, right.
So because of that reasons, many in my extended family, they accepted Jesus. So that was the impact. Yeah.
It's so complex. It's in some ways it's complex. Some ways it's really simple.
Yeah.
There was something that people saw in you.
Yeah.
that was attractive to even to the rest of your family. There was transformation.
Yeah, that was the big, huge change. I can say a drastic change in my life and my community. And they were, studying. They were, looking at me from the beginning of my life when I became a Christian. So they came to know everything, and it is good to be a Christian. So finally, they decided to be a Christian. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I hear you say in your story.
Yeah.
That these other religions didn't have satisfactory answers, because that was you. You didn't like their answer to the question of what happens to your soul.
Yeah.
You didn't. So they didn't have the answers, and in Christ you found the answers, and in Christ you found transformation and change.
Yeah.
If I were to try to summarize kind of everything that we've talked about, that is what Christ had meant.
Yeah. Another reason was, we were worshiping two different goddesses. God and goddess. So one is Buddha. Another one is, another one is veg. Another one is non-veg. Something like that. Our enemies, our God and goddess, they would like to have this chicken and eggs sacrifice. But whereas Buddha, he doesn't like all these things.
Yeah, right.
It is contradiction between two.
It's a contradiction. Yeah. I was going to say it's syncretism.
Yeah.
They're mixing.
Yeah, I asked. This is one of the reasons that I was, trying to find out the true God. Which one is true God?
Yeah, because they're in competition.
Yeah, in competition. Yeah, because I was thinking that these two gods, I think they cannot, take me to the heaven.
Yeah.
Because they themselves
fighting each other.
They are fighting each other. So that is one of the reasons that I was searching for the true God.
Wow.
And at the same time, I was rejecting Jesus also.
Yeah, right.
But eventually, I received Jesus.
If I had someone sitting next to me right now, and so I'm assuming this is an American audience, so it's an American person sitting next to me right now, and they are completely skeptical of Christ, and they would see Christ as just another one of the 30 million gods. It's one God among many. What would you say to that person who is sitting next to me? How would you convince them, or how would you explain what Jesus has meant to you?
I already shared with you that I need to share my testimonies that I was a Buddhist, I was an animist, and when I received Jesus Christ, it really changed my entire life. And even though maybe our situations is not similar, so our American friends, they have a different situations, different backgrounds.
Yeah.
But I think my testimony can impress them.
Yeah.
Yeah. How I sacrificed my life to God, and how I dare to leave my old my traditions and traditional gods and goddesses. So
yeah,
I think that those things can really help them to convince and that Jesus is a true God.
Your story is powerful. It really is it's a powerful story. Without saying the name, I don't want to name the country we're in right now for security reasons. But why does this place today need Christ? Why does this nation, this people from your heart? I mean, I know you give your life to this. You've given your whole life to walking up really high mountains, going down in valleys, treacherous, side hills, to go out to places and to people, to carry Christ to them right where they're at, and to appeal to them that Jesus really does matter. He really can answer your questions. You've given your whole life to this. You've probably driven more miles and walked more miles in the name of carrying Christ, or in the name of preaching the gospel. You obviously have a deep conviction. Can you just name that conviction? Why do you think that this nation needs Jesus?
Without Jesus, life is nothing. And everybody needs Jesus. So, according to the teaching of the Bible and my conviction that if we do not receive Jesus Christ, then our life will be, finally it will go to the heaven. So the another thing is, practical thing is, lot of things are happening in our country. So one of the things is corruption. Corruption is going everywhere. So I think is this can be stopped by Jesus only. When we accept Jesus Christ, then only we can stop all kind of things.
Yeah.
So and as a Hindu, Hindu people, they cannot they cannot express their real love to each other. I mean, their neighbors and their family members. But when we accept Jesus Christ, then we can share the true love to our neighbors and our family members. So this country needs Jesus, because our 30.3 million God and goddesses did not do anything.
Wow. Didn't satisfy.
So we need Jesus. Our country is underdeveloped, so it is far behind in the other countries.
Yeah.
So I think this is just because of this Hinduism. There are so many things within this Hinduism. So the caste system is there. This Brahmin, they don't want this lower castes to come to their house and eat together. There are so many restrictions, but in Christianity we do not have like this.
Right.
Yeah, even we can have an caste marriage.
Yeah.
We do not have problem as a Christian, but whereas if you go to the Hinduism, they cannot have it. They cannot do like this. So there are so many problems.
Yeah.
So in order to break these kind of things, so we must accept Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Because after all, we are human beings. Yeah. So we have a similar blood. So I think that's one of the things that we need to accept Jesus Christ. This country needs Jesus Christ. So that is why we have given our life to God, so that we can bring our people into the kingdom of God.
Thanks for joining us in that conversation. I hope you were curious as you heard this man's story and just his own unique encounter with God in this place. A couple of things that really stand out to me when I was sitting there having that conversation with him. The first is in the American culture and the American context, the entire conversation about heaven and hell has become really charged and complicated, even for Christians. When we see billboards that speak of hell and maybe even scaring people into heaven, there's a strong response by so many in America, and that's been a part of the missiological conversation, I think, in the West and evangelism in the recent years. What is the right way to bring Christ to people, and is really the conversation about heaven and hell, is that the right way to approach this? This story really confronts me as I sat there and listened to him talk about his experience. He's standing on a road, and someone that that is just only vaguely he knows starts to explain to him that he doesn't know where his spirit is going after he dies, and starts to talk to him about hell. In this Himalayan region, there's an abundance of gods, and there's an abundance of religions. 30 million different gods might be worshipped in these mountains, these Himalayan mountains. And yet, this man in this interview, he didn't have a good explanation for the conversation about his spirit and where his spirit goes. And that became for him as a 16-year-old really compelling, a compelling reason to give Christ a chance. And you can see even he had big questions I still have. Is Christianity just a Western religion? He was able to bypass that question just simply because at the end of the day, he didn't have a sufficient answer to where his spirit would go after he dies. And so that's a little bit uncomfortable for me. I think as an American who's really sensitive to that topic, it's really uncomfortable for me to hear how impacting that has been in his spiritual journey. So that's the one thing that sticks out to me, is this conversation about heaven and hell and how important it is. One of the things to also note is many of these cultures in this part of the world are animistic. And that means they're worshiping various nature gods, and there's various expressions of God. And so even the conversation about where does your spirit go and what happens to your spirit is actually very animistic in a way. And there's something about that question seems particularly relevant to somebody in an animistic culture. And so that was another thing that I was just curious about as I was talking with this man. The other thing that I'd want to say that was just unique is, for many of us, especially in the West, our faith costs us almost nothing. For many of us, it's not, I live in a normal neighborhood in the United States, in Colorado, and for me to profess my faith as a Christian, for the most part, there's not a lot of persecution that I experience because of a faith commitment that I have. But man, when I listen to this story, one of the things that really sticks out to me is that he made this decision. He knelt down on a road and knew that in some way that his family would reject him for becoming a Christian. That also just kind of confronts me. I don't have a complicated explanation, but for me, as I listen to that story, I realize that Christ encountering this man on the road is a deeply spiritual experience that is even stronger than his family loyalty. And if you know anything about Asian culture, you know anything about this Himalayan region, what you also know is that they're a deeply collective family people. And so for him to have this experience on a road, to turn towards Christ, to profess as a Christian, is incredibly profound and costly for him. And so those are just two little pieces of this interview that I walked away with probably more questions than I do even have answers. But this is a real man's story in real time and real space. And I think it's worth sitting with and observing and listening to just the way that his life, his spirituality has been formed in this place. And so we're going to continue to bring you stories like this, topics that I hope stretch your mind, stretch your imagination, conversations with people like I had just while I've been here in this Himalayan region. And I hope that you walk away asking your own questions. Maybe not with as many answers, but maybe with a lot of questions and a lot of curiosity. So thanks for joining us on this first inaugural podcast of Redeeming Mission.
Thank you for joining us today on the Redeeming Missions podcast. If you like what you've heard, we encourage you to subscribe so you can stay up to date on all future episodes. Echoing in the prayer of St. Patrick, Christ with us, Christ before us, Christ behind us, Christ in us. Let us carry Christ to our world. Until next time.